Hi there, welcome to QA Box Let's Test, and this video we are going to learn how to work with sliders in Cypress. So there are basically two type of sliders. One is which are of element type input and their type is set to range, something like this. So in here you could see input type is equal to range. Now this has got certain attributes like min and max that defines the range. So you can set values between these two values, okay, and this step is 10, so this is the minimum value that you can increment or decrement, and this value is equal to 20 is the default value of it, okay. So now there is a p tag underneath this, and the moment I change the value, this thing is being updated. So in our test case we are going to check that when we work with this slider, this value is also being updated. Same way, we have this another slider. Again, we have got the type set to range, okay, and it's just that it is styled differently with the help of CSS. That's it. So, what is the other type we come across? It's something like this, wherein we use the slider just to slide through the list, okay. In here we do not have the value which we want to store. In this particular case, right, it could be ranking, it could be rating, and we want to store that value into the database. This particular type of slider though is used to just slide through the list that you have, okay. So I'll show you some examples. So in here we see this slider, okay. So through this we can slide through this list. Whenever we have something like this, we also get these two buttons, right, so that we can scroll left and scroll to the right, okay. Another example is something like this, okay. In here also we are not, you could see it is of type div, right, and we do not have the any value, right, which we want to store into the database. The other is like this is the first one. So basically in here, though it is of type div and span, but we also have an input element, right. So it looks like it is of type input type is equal to range, but that is not the case, right. So how are we going to work with all these different type of sliders? So let's see that. So the case number one is when we have to work with input type equal to range, okay. So how am I going to work with this type of element? So the thing is, there is no direct command available into Cypress. So then we are going to make use of invoke method and trigger method, all right. And we know it by now that for trigger we have to provide the event name, and with the help of this invoke we can invoke the jQuery methods, okay. And in this video for the second category, which is just to slide through the list, we are going to make use of this attribute method. Through this attribute method, we can get and set the value of an attribute. All right. So now let's start with this. So I have this website which I'm visiting. Then I have found that element, and this element is this. All right, this one. Okay, and now I want to set its value to, let's say, 70. Okay, remember there is a step attribute in there, so I can only increment or decrement it by 10. Okay, so I just say invoke. This is how you have to do that, and you have to invoke the value method this time. So val method is from jQuery, through which you can set the value of the element, and the value that you want to set it to be, let's say I want to set it to 70. Okay, now with the help of this method you have just set the value, but you also have to trigger a method to indicate that yes, the value has been changed. If you don't do this, right, so let me do the same for this as well, and let us see what is going to happen. So we just set the first one to 70 and the second one to this. And now we want to assert the values. Okay. So let me run this test case and show you what will happen if you don't have the, so see this is being failed. Okay. And in here you see the value has been changed to 70, but this is still showing what, 20, right, because we have not triggered any change. So we have to trigger the change. We have just set the value, but we also need to trigger the change method, and we have to actually trigger the appropriate event that should be fired. So again, I've already talked about how to figure out what all different events are there on a particular element, how to find it out, right? So in this particular case, what I have to do is I have to trigger change. Okay, so got to do the same for the second one as well. And if I now run this, what we'll see is the value is updated and also the paragraph text, and hence this has been passed. So both of these are passed. Now just one thing in here, so it's important to understand the step part. So because the step is there, so if I say 72, okay, so now see what is going to happen is if I set it to 72, see this will fail because we have the concept of rounding things. So basically you could see now we were expecting 72 but the text was 70. Okay, now if I change it to 76, okay, so now it would become 80. Okay, that's how this operator work, or this particular element work. Okay, so now if I say 72, I have to set it to what, 70. Okay, you know how it is going to work. And if you set it to 76, you have to set it to 80 and then it would work. Okay, so we do not have a step in here, so let us add that, and that ways we can try both. So let us add the step in here as well, and we set it to 10. That's fine. Now let us change this to, let's say, 76 and expect it to be 80. Okay, let's run these. Okay, we have to change one more thing. This is the minimum value 1, so obviously it would be 81. So we have to start from 0. Now if I run this, let us run this again. Okay, so you see this has worked. The thing was, the minimum value was for this one was set to 0 and for this it was set to 1. So you just keep on incrementing 10 and it would be 81 and not 80. Right, I hope all these attributes are clear to you. You know how to work with the sliders of input type is equal to range. It's very important. Let us now move on to the other example. So this time we are using slider just to slide through the list. Okay, and this time it's pretty simple, so therefore I've already written the code for you. uh, so these are my different sliders which have got the id 1, id 2. So when I basically slide through this list, right, so this is my div with id slide is equal to 1, then you see slide equal to 2, slide is equal to 3, and so on, like this. Okay, like this. So if I just inspect this, okay, and I just find out my element, let me just open this. Okay, so we have this in here. So you see it was on the extreme left. This is how things are being positioned, but they are not shown to you. This is my div 2 now, and this is div 3, and this is div 4, and so it has taken up this whole space, but I'm not showing that to you. Okay, so this is the trick in here. Now I can use this thing in here. The thing is, if you look at this, there is no input type is equal to range, all right, because we just have to slide through it. So now there are different ways when we come to sliders of this particular category. In this particular case, all I have to do is I just have to find that element because it's already there in the DOM, and I have to click on it, and that way it will be active in here. The other approach would be, you can click on these buttons, and when you click on these buttons, the URL will also be changed. As you could see, a hash is being added right at the end. So because they're already there, I can click on that, and this time I can use the force command. Okay, so I can say, okay, if they are hidden, I just want to click on that. So now let us run this test case and see what is going to happen. Okay, so ideally when this command is being executed, I should see number 2 in the box. Then with this command I should see number 3 in the command, and herein I'm clicking on the button. So those 1 2 3 buttons, so I don't need to pass in this force equal to true because they are visible. And then I'm checking that the URL should contain this. us run this. Okay, so in here you could see slide 2 was there, then slide 3. Okay, and then we clicked on that button, right? And this was a new URL, and this assertion is being passed. Okay, so that's how you can work with these kind of elements. That is one approach, okay, of working with these if they are hidden. So let us move on to the next test case and see what do we have in there. Okay, so we have this test automation practice blog. So let's open that. So let us find that element. Is that it is? Okay, so here's that element, and currently you see left is equal to 0. I explained left, client, x, y, everything in the previous videos. So now if just uh, observe this value left 0 percentage. Okay, the moment I start drifting it to the right, this value increases. Okay, this is how we are tracking the current state or current position of this square box. Okay, so this is what we have to do now. So what are we doing in here? You see, we are visiting that page, and then we are finding this span. Which span? This span. Okay, and now with the help of invoke method, I'm setting the attribute, right? So this style is an attribute. Okay, so the style is an attribute node, and therefore we have to use attr method. And which attribute we are updating? So we are updating style, and to what value we are updating it to? We are updating it to this. So you have to pick the exact thing, right? So between these double quotes, just pick everything in there, right, and set it to your respective value. All right, so that's the trick in here. Let's execute this test case. Pretty simple one. And let's wait for it to be completed. It's done. Okay, so let us see whether it has been updated to this new value. Yes, it has been updated to this new value. So you could see style left 80 has done this for us. Great. Now let us see another example of slider, which is on the material UI side. So as a tester, you have to spend some time in figuring out, how these components are being designed, because these days developers use these kind of libraries like Material UI, Bootstrap, jQuery UI, and so on. So what happens is, those libraries, they provide us the component directly. Means that that component has got HTML, CSS, JavaScript, everything in there, right? So developers don't design this from start. They just consume these components. So therefore we have to understand this. Let me take you to this site. In here we have this, right? So now this particular element, right, is not of type range, right? It is composed of all these different divs and so on. Okay, this is the div. Okay, now inside that I have few things in here, right? And I'll tell you that I have to work on this particular thing, because in here I have the style left and this width is there. Then in here I'm actually storing the value. So if I drag it to the right, you see that this is also getting updated with 57, value is 57, and also this thing is being updated. So the thing is, this particular value, developer might be reading it from here and storing that into the database. All right, but if I don't update the other two, okay, the thing is, the what you are seeing in here is, this is more darker than this, right? So this is more dark blue than this particular section. So all this is being done by the CSS. So if I don't fill in this and this, right? So what you will see is this will drag to this point, but this will not be filled. Like, it would be not be looking like this. Okay. So we have to ensure that we update this, and this value. Okay. So you have to build all these three values. So therefore what I'm doing is, as you could see, it is going to give me the span, and then I'm updating the last one, which is basically this. Okay, and I'm setting these values like style left 80 and area value now. So these are the two things I have obviously figured out doing by doing the RC on that. So here's the value that I have to update. Okay, and then style also I have to update, right? Then the other one is this. In here what I'm doing is I'm just updating this particular thing. So this is the span that I'm trying to update, and in here you see there are left and width properties. Okay, so I've picked those like this, and this is what I've done. Okay, all right. And then the last one is the input value. And now for input value, again we have to use the attribute method, and we have to update what the attribute value to 80. Okay, and then we are running our assertion whether the value is 80 or not. Okay, so again you have to work with your developers, or you have to do this research by your own, right? Because I think, I mean, even your developer might not be able to help you out, because what they see, the slider as is just like I'll show you. So this is kind of this library is used into React, and this is the whole code for the component, right? So you could see that this is a functional component. They use it just like this. Okay, do you see any div span in here? No. Okay, you don't see that, right? And in here also you see the default value is something like this. Okay, so your developers, and also like in here you see, so they change, they read it from here. Okay, so they won't be knowing all these things, how this component is being translated into all these actual HTML elements. These are not the uh, typical HTML elements, right? They are the components, they are the libraries being developed to be consumed by the developers to speed up their work. But then the downside is, we have to do this research by our own. Okay, like I have done for this particular case. All right, so now if I run this and launch the runner. Okay, so this has been changed, and here also you see it's being updated, and it is also properly filled. Okay, so if I just uncomment, let's say this one, just sorry, just comment this one and run this again. Let's see. Yeah, it is still running. Okay, now you see the difference, right? Something has not worked, so it's being filled till this point, but the circle isn't here. This is what I was talking about. If I just or comment out the other one. Okay, and these are the spans that I'm commenting, not the input. Okay, like that, you see the other case. In here the circle is in here, but this is not filled, this is darker. So yeah, you got to find out this. All right, now next one is Amazon slider. And in there, what do we have? Let's see. So we are in here, and this is my span again, not a slider. And now just watch this thing style again, because this is the attribute that we are going to play with. So you see, if I'm scrolling it to the right, the left property is being updated. Okay, so this is what we are going to do in here. So this is the basically the selector, right? It's a long one. Yeah, and then I'm invoking the attribute method, and then this is the attribute style, and I just copied that and updated my left value to 511. Okay, so let me run this. This is only this case. Okay, let's scroll down. So it is able to find that, and it has already invoked this, right? So left 511 pixels, so ideally it should work. Let's see. Okay, where is that? Yeah, this is the section, and it is to the right already. Okay, now if I change it to, let's say, 211 pixel, let's see, is it working or not? Yeah, so the element has been found, the command has been triggered. So you see the difference now. All right, so this is about the sliders. Now depending upon what all different sliders are being used in your application, you can create custom commands. Okay, and these days there is always a possibility that developers use a library like this. So you can proactively ask them, okay, hey, what all different components you are using, and then they have something like this, right? So you can go in there and check out the different components. For example, these are the different components, right, that are available in this library. Same way in Bootstrap, you have different components. So you can just, come here, write your code, and figure out that, okay, hey, how these components are being actually, translated into the real HTML elements, and then what should be your strategy, and accordingly you can, create your custom commands. All right. I hope you like that. Thank you so much.